try this time. Well, hello again. Welcome, everybody. It's Ron here from Are You Shitting Me? TMI, the podcast. I'm being the Lone Ranger this evening, being as Mike is having some weather difficulties out there in Amarillo, Texas. But fear not, I have come prepared. I have pictures, I have information, and I also am looking forward to hearing from you guys out there in podcast land. So anyway, lots been going on lately out here in Las Vegas, as it normally does. Weather is starting to get a little hot. I guess they're getting some bad, rains and thunderstorms out there in Amarillo. And I just got back from Huntington Beach the week before, where the weather was nice. It was about 68, 70 degrees, but my bald head got sunburnt nonetheless. But anyway, so tonight I wanted to talk about you might be old. As you can see, my name says on there, I might be old. But I had said this to Mike last week. It was one of those, score 1 point for each of these things. And I don't really care about the 1 point portion of it. But I do want to address these, because some of these, we just take for granted as baby boomers and Gen Xers. And even some of the closer to the Gen X age dealt with these or had something to do with these the majority of their life. So that being said, we've got You Might Be Old If, and we have a rundown of quite a few things. And I sat here and went down to this, and I think I actually was able to check off each one of these. But we're going to go down these just in order. And if you guys are logging on, thank you, and join in and let us know, or let me know, the things that you remember. The first off we're going to talk about is rotary phones. Now, rotary phones are, if you were a teenager in the 70s or 80s, man, you had the rotary phone that was the handheld with the wall unit. You used to walk three doors down in your house with the cord on it. So I pulled up this image. Now, this is probably a little bit older than the rotary phones that we are used to back in the day. Ours were maybe a little bit more high tech than this, but I actually have in here a wall mounted one where you actually pick up the little receiver and has the hole in the middle, and you talk into it, and I have another one back here behind me. So yeah, rotary phones were definitely a thing of the times. We went from rotary phone to the push button style phones. Matter of fact, I think I've told this story once before, but I'll say it again. I had a kid that worked for me, and he saw the phones in my office, and he's like, "Hey, Ron," he goes, "What are those?" And I'm like, "It's a telephone." And at the time, I actually had it set up as a landline, and it actually worked. And I said, his name was Tyrone. I said, "I'll tell you what, Tyrone, I'll give you $100 if you can call me on that phone right now." Now, mind you, I didn't lose $100 because this kid couldn't figure out for the life of him exactly how to call me on that phone. So that being said, we're going to move on down. Let's see, what do we got next on here? Ever used a floppy disk? Now, floppy disks are definitely a thing of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think they originally started out, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but they used to be like 8-inch floppy disks, these huge disks. And what for you newer kids, what a floppy disk was basically turned into a thumb drive, and then back in the 80s, mid to late 80s, the 3.5-inch disc was real popular. They were a read-write capable disc, but nothing in comparison to what we had today. I mean, back in the day, these things maybe could carry 256 kilobytes, and I'm not going to get technical into what kind of storage these things take today, but yeah, it's astronomical what these little thumb drives nowadays are capable of holding compared to the floppy disk that we were used to using back in the day. Have you ever used a typewriter? I did. I can actually remember being in school and going to typewriting class. And I will say, back in the day, I could type pretty damn good. Not like you go into these offices and you see these people just going 100 miles a minute typing. But now we have the lazier version of that now, where everything is audio. I mean, I'll admit it. Even when I'm working or I'm responding to clients or customers, and I'm driving, I can't be on my phone doing this number. It's all voice. Everything's voice activated. And I tell you what, that can be a lot of fun. So you may think you're saying one thing, but it's definitely typing out something else. So anyway, let's move on down here. Let's go. Where are we at? Number 4. Taking photos with a film camera. You know what? Not necessarily a film camera, but I still do have a couple of my old digital cameras, 9mm cameras, the Canons with the big lens and stuff on them. I can't tell you the last time I used an actual film Canon. I mean, it was probably one of those the pocket Polaroids. You ever see those? They're long, skinny with a little flash bulb that turns on the top of it. So yeah, that's probably been quite a while since I've used one. But had a CD collection. Man, back in the day, you were not cool if you didn't have a CD collection. Now, and it wasn't. I mean, you had the visor holder that would have it would hold supposed to hold 15 or 20 CDs, but you'd have 30 or 40 of them shoved in the hole of that thing. And as well as at home, I remember, in Colorado Springs, I used to have one of those fold out CD holders, and it would hold hundreds of CDs, hundreds. And again, now everything's digital. I mean, I don't really listen to the radio that much anymore. I listen to everything streaming. You tell it what you want to hear and it plays it. You can play a genre. My jam is Spotify. I'm a big Spotify user, and I have on my Spotify, I have it set up to play certain genres. I'll say, hey, play this, play that, and it'll just play that whole type of music. Or you can play, like, if you like Tom Petty, you can play Tom Petty radio. Not Sirius XM, but on Spotify, which will do the same thing. Now let's see. That takes us on to made a mixtape. Man, if I had $1 for every mixtape that I made, I'd probably have $5. But no, seriously. Yeah, mixtapes were the thing back in the day, and then they became mix CDs. Matter of fact, I think if I look hard enough, I think I still have a couple of mix CDs somewhere here in my office. But owned a what? Number 7. Anybody ever owned a Walkman? Walkmans were the thing of the future back then. You could clip it onto your belt, and it had a little cord with the little tiny mushroom-looking headphones, and that's how you always could tell the cool kids was they all had their Walkmans, and then they started coming out in different colors and designs and so on and so forth, and just made it even nerdier than it already was. But it's no different than back then than it is today. I mean, you can tell I hate to use the word class, but the class of a person by what they wear and what they have and their accessories, and because some of us just don't give a shit. And yeah, I like fancy stuff and neat toys, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to go spend thousands of dollars on something just to be cool like everybody else. Have you ever had a VHS recorder? Do you guys even know what a VHS recorder is? Yeah, I didn't think so. Matter of fact, I think honestly, if I go out in my garage in one of my storage containers, I think I honestly have a VHS recorder out there. It literally took an entire VHS tape into this thing. That's me thinking you know what a VHS tape is. Ever had to repair a cassette? Now, I kind of chuckled at this, so I went back and I looked at this. I found this photo, and if you were my age or around that age, you know exactly what this is. If you've ever been listening to your cassette tape in your car or in your boom box, which we'll get to those here shortly, and the tape jams up or it does this where it just starts coming unbound, the number two pencil was the go-to machine to fix your cassette tape. Oddly enough, you put it in there, and the shape of the pencil was the same. It fit into little notches of the cassette tape, and you can just twist, 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 and twist, and voila, you had a brand new tape. Now, some of us were even more handy, and we would literally crack the cassette tape open, cut a little piece, take some tape, tape it up, and splice it, and repair the tape that you had. Again, nowadays you just ask, whatever AI machine to play whatever you want. All right. Well, if you're joining us tonight, we're just going down a list of things that make you feel old, or you might be old if you know what these things are, especially if you've ever used one or ever owned one. It's one of those things I was doing online, give a point for each one that you've done. And there was 25 questions. And of course, my score was, of course, 25. So again, Mike's not with us tonight, but we hope to see him back here next week. Although he did say he might pop in while we're on here. So if he does pop in, we will happily accept him. Where are we at? We've got rented movies at Blockbuster. Now, you talk about the VHS tape we talked about earlier, the VHS recorder. The Blockbuster was the place, man. I miss going to Blockbuster. When the new movies would come out and they'd come out on VHS, you would go to the Blockbuster store, and it'd be this huge, bright colored store with all these movies, and they had a popcorn machine there, and always sold candy and stuff. So it's kind of that movie feel, but not the movie expense. And God forbid, man, I remember times we'd go to rent a movie and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, it looks like here, Steve should have it back by 6 o'clock, and it's 5:30." So you would literally sit there for half an hour and wait for Steve to drop it off in the return tray outside. So sometimes it happened, sometimes it didn't, but when it did, man, it was like a score. It was like a score. So. Number 11. Anybody ever play an Atari? Now, the Atari kind of holds a special place in my heart because as a kid, I lived in a fourplex and was lucky enough to live upstairs from my cousins, Matt, Dave, and Roger, and my Aunt Linda at the time. And they had an Atari, and that was just the highlight of my weekends, would be going downstairs and playing Atari with the cousins. And nowadays I look at that and I'm so glad it didn't turn into what it's become today, because it literally is just, in my opinion, sucked the joy out of kids going outside and riding their bikes. In fact, I can look out my window right now and it's great, the neighborhood that we live in, because there's kids out there on their scooters or out there playing baseball. It's actually kind of nice. You don't really see that everywhere. A lot of places kids are held up in their rooms or their living rooms on a cell phone or on a tablet or a laptop or on a game controller or what have you, instead of being outside and enjoying the weather. All right, let's see. We are on number 12. Who has ever listened to music on a boombox? Now, if you were lucky enough to know what a boombox is, man, I tell you what, you lived a great life, because it was like boombox wars back in the day. I remember going to junior high school, and we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up as kids, so I didn't get all the things that the other kids got. But you'd see the guys walking down the street with a boombox, like this big, and mine was like this big. So, but you know what? But you know what? You play it as loud and as proud as you can, and you're happy with what you got. Like my wife says, you get what you get and don't throw a fit. But yeah, boom boxes were just the thing back in the day, to the point to where we would get in trouble almost for having boom boxes at school. But they now have, I want to say it was on Amazon, I'm not sure, but one of my friends bought one, and it is just ridiculously ginormous. And he's like, man, this just kind of takes me back to the day. And I can't lie, I wanted one too. All right, let's get back up here and see where we are at. We are on number 13. Ever sent a fax? Now, for those of you that are younger than the baby boomers and Gen Xers, especially Gen Xers, I'm not really sure when faxing went out. I mean, do we still fax? Do people still fax stuff? I don't know. I would imagine some offices do, but I think most everything now is all digital. It's all email and text message and stuff like that. I mean, AI is just kind of taken over. I'm sure that's going to be have a lot to do with the faxing not being around either. And talking about phased out, I mean, number 14 is ever used MySpace. If you know what MySpace is, you've got to be, have sore knees and elbows and your joints are killing you right now, because that was the beginning of what I would say was the beginning of social media. I mean, MySpace was huge. And number 15, ever used a dial-up to access the internet? Man, that, I think about that today, and that is the most frustrating thing ever, waiting for the dial-up. And God forbid your sibling or somebody picked up the phone in the other room and killed your connection. So it's not like nowadays where we actually have a microwave-based internet here at our house in Las Vegas. A lot of people use cable internet and whatever's fast, whatever's good for them. And I actually like our microwave-based system. It works pretty good. But back in the day, you had to literally dial in to the internet, and it made this, and that's when you knew you're connected. And then your sister or brother in the other room picks up the phone and drops your connection. So no fun for dial-up. Number 16, I got a good chuckle out of this. Ever had an encyclopedia? So I had to look this up, and we actually had a very similar set to this of encyclopedias. Even remember, I even recall guys going door to door selling encyclopedias. Again, technology has made that a dinosaur as well. I mean, anything you want to know, you ask, I don't want to say it because she's sitting right here, Alexa, or you get on your phone or you Google search something. But back in the day, you went and grabbed a Britannica. Britannicas were the go-to for encyclopedias. I think Mike, if you watch this later, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Dad still had the full set of Britannicas when he passed. Moving on, talking about things you might be old if you remember these things. 1 point for each thing. Not worried about the points, just kind of fun to talk about. Remember, back in the day, we were just talking about encyclopedias. Number 16. So we're going to move down to number 17, which is ever used a phone book? Yeah, the phone books aren't just for short people to sit on in their cars anymore. I mean, back in the day, that's how you found out people's phone numbers. That's how you found out businesses. I mean, the yellow pages was huge. You had the white pages and the yellow pages. White pages were all the people, add names, addresses, phone numbers. And then you had the businesses. If you wanted a carpet cleaner, then you went to the C's for carpet cleaning. If you wanted a tire shop, then you went to the T's for tire shops. And you would literally scroll back and forth, top, bottom, left, right, until you found the company that you wanted to use, and then you gave them a call. Now, again, I've said it several times since I've been on here. Now it's all digital. You You ask in the air, Alexa, hey, where do I find a tire shop? Hey, where's a good ice cream shop? And it'll tell you. Same thing on your phone. Just Google search it on your phone. Or my big thing, I go on to Google Maps and I'll look for, tire service, and it gives me directions to 15 places within 2 minutes of my house. Number 18, ever sent a postcard? I kind of pondered this one because I don't recall ever sending a postcard. I remember getting them, but I don't think I've ever sent one. But I checked it off anyway because I'm sure somewhere down the line I had to have sent one at some point. It's just I'm old and I don't remember half the time. Number 19, ever sent a handwritten letter? I used to have friends in different states when I was a kid because we used to roller skate and we used to ride bicycles, and we would go to competitions. So we'd meet kids from other states. And so, yeah, I do remember writing uh, handwritten letters and, sending like birthday cards and stuff like that in the mail. And it's kind of funny because we were just talking the other day about mailing a letter, about getting stamps and putting a stamp on a letter. It has to be decades, literally decades, since I put a stamp on anything. Because now everything, again, you take it somewhere and drop it off, and they come and pick it up. And I don't think I haven't used a stamp probably since I was in I'd probably say my 20s or so. Okay, number 20, ever used a paper map? I remember as a kid going out with my dad. We used to go out and chop wood every year, and he liked to go out, four-wheeling in his two-wheel drive truck. And my job was I had this map, and it literally folded out like 15 times this way and twice this way, and you had to gauge where you're at. Okay, I know that street, and I know this town coming up, and it'll give you the distance. Every quarter inch is a mile, and so you had to be able to tell Dad, okay, we're going to be there at this amount of time. And man, thank God for GPS. GPS back in the day when we were kids, that was damn near like military grade stuff. That's what they used it for. And now every cell phone has it, almost every vehicle has it. And the sad thing is, I actually had one of my employees tell me that he couldn't get to his kid's school if he didn't have GPS. And that's just, to me, just, it makes people lazy. If they had to go back and use a paper map or an atlas or anything, man, we'd all be screwed. Anyway, I see some people hopping on. We are talking about, you might be old if you ever have done any of the things on this 25-point list. Again, not really counting points, but it's fun to play along. So we are now at number 21. If you ever owned a pager. I can't think of many people that I knew growing up that didn't own a pager. Some of us own two sometimes, but that was a story for a different time. But pagers, for those of you that are watching that don't know what pagers are, which I'm sure most of you do, it was a little thing about the size of a small deck of cards that you would put on you, and it would beep you, and it'd have a phone number on it, and you'd have to go find a pay phone or a landline and return the call, And then when cell phones started coming out, you'd see everybody walk around with a cell phone and a pager right next to it. So if they got a page from somebody, they could literally pick up their phone and call them right away. That's the other thing I just did. So if you're of the baby boomer and Gen Xer, and I tell you, give me a call sign, you always do this, right? You do the thumb in the ear, the finger in the mouth. I asked my granddaughter, I said, if I told you to give me a call, but you couldn't speak, what would you do? And she went like this, held her whole hand up to her face, which that's damn near what it is. When you go to call somebody nowadays, it's you put the whole damn thing up to your face. Back in the day, it was this, because that's what our, matter of fact, is right here. That's what our handle looked like back when we were kids. Maybe not that old. All right, pressing forward. Wrote a check. Don't be confused by the way it's spelled. It's still a check. Check is a check is a check. Check. That type of a check is just over the pond type of a check, and ours is CHECK. And again, I haven't written a check probably, I'd say 10 plus years. Maybe yeah, I'll say at least 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. Because now we have everything is electronic between Zelle and Venmo and Cash App and you name it. Oddly enough, I had a client we went and did some work for on this last Friday, and I said, hey, glad you liked your service. We accept Zelle, Venmo. She's like, can I mail you, older couple? Can I mail you a check? We don't do any of the electronic stuff. So I'm like, absolutely, send me the check. Money's money. It'll all spend, but so it's nice to see that there are still some people out there that don't do the electrical stuff, because all your shit's just floating around out there, and it's easy for anybody to grab it. Matter of fact, Michelle was just hacked somebody. I forget it was 2022 or 20 somewhere. Took out 21. Took out $10,000 in unemployment. She's never been on unemployment, so now she gets to deal with the talking to the federal government and whoever else about getting that whole situation taken care of. But all right, moving on. So number 23, ever removed the CD player from your car? So have to kind of explain this one. They used to have the removable faceplate on your stereo where you just push a button and the faceplate would come off and you could take it in the house with you, come in a little case. Mostly just so nobody can look in and see what you have and steal your stuff. Some of the other ones, you had a little handle, and the handle would flip up in front of the deck, and you pull it, and the whole damn thing would come out. That's like literally like the beginning plug and play. You push it in, it makes a connection, and your stereo works. Lift up the handle, yank it out, you take the whole damn thing in. So if somebody breaks in your car trying to steal your stereo, guess what? It's not there. Not there. All right. So who we got on here? I see you do the rest of the podcast without your shirt on. I love you. Still drop a check in the collection plate at church. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, back in the day, Tim, we used to go to this place called Circle Drive Baptist Church, and our collection plates were the old Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets that they used at the Saturday service. So every time the plate per se would come around for a collection, I was like, man, that smells good. I don't know if it was the money or if it was the chicken. I always say the rest of the podcast without your shirt. All right. Well, we can probably handle that, Michelle. We can probably handle that. I'm not sure. Some of the guys might get a little jealous, though. Where we at here? Oh, number 24. Ever used a record player? Yeah, it's so funny. We were in San Diego and at an Airbnb, and they had this little tiny record player, and it had Bread, the CD, the big 45 of Bread, and listened to it, and man, it was so nostalgic just to listen to it on the crackliness of the record and the ambiance of the view out of the window. And so we came home and bought a record player, little cheapy ass record player, just all in one. It's got the record player, the speaker, all one unit. But man, I remember record players back in the day. Mike has been in radio for 40 plus years, and back then, I mean, they were still using decks, record players back then. They started moving into cassette and stuff like that a little down the line. But when I was, I want to say I was 15, 16 years old, I was the weekend DJ at Skate City in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And we had the 2 turntables, and you had to cue one up and listen on the mic for that one to start. And then as soon as it go, you slide the bar over to mix the tape, So as I'm reading that, ever used a record player, I went out and searched skating rink DJ booths. And I have to go back and read it. I didn't read it while I was there, but it was the Confessions of a Skate Rink DJ. I'm like, that has got to be some phenomenal story. That right there would be a good podcast, because I remember back in the day being that guy. You know, you were always the cool cat up there playing the music. Everybody wanted to hanging out. Hey, can you play this for me? Hey, can you play that for me? And you just like had the power of God. No, I'm not going to play that. No, I play that for you, you know. But so yeah, it's fun. I missed that sound. I do like the fact that there are some like Spotify and some of those other streaming services will actually play the record version of what you want to listen to, so you get that static sound and you get that rumbly sound of the needle hitting the record. Let's see, what do we got? We got maybe one more. Number 25. Have you ever used MSN Messenger? I think I used MSN Messenger for a real short time. I think it might have been the same back in the day. I don't really tackle technology all that well. Probably better than some, but not as good as others. And I think the older I get, that learning curve is tremendous these days. You know, we don't learn at the speed of our kids and grandkids. You know, my 15-year-old granddaughter, you know, could probably tell me how to work my computer. As a matter of fact, we were down in Huntington Beach, and my father-in-law couldn't get his printer to work. And he said, I'll just have one of the grandkids come over and fix it for me. He does it. I don't know what he does, but he just does it. You know? All right. Tim says, traveling back to the mountains last month, me and Judy are apart. Elderly couple, a convenience store, watched a driver looking at giant rabbit. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it, man. Oh, you know, back in the day when I was living in Denver, we didn't have all this stuff. And I used to have what was not the map, but the book that we used to carry everywhere. And I always had it in my back seat, man. If ever I got lost, I'd pull that bad boy out, and I'd find myself quicker than your GPS would. But yeah, to see something like that, you know, in its natural state. But yeah, that would be awesome. But me, Tim, I would have gone up and knocked on the window, being like, dude, it's so freaking awesome. But well, I was kind of hoping my brother would have popped on, but I hope things out there in Amarillo are okay weather-wise. I guess they're supposed to be getting some bad rain and hail and stuff like that. And I did just watch the new, well, it's not new anymore, but the new Twister 2. That was actually pretty good. So it always bewilders me why people would want to live in a place called Tornado Alley. Yeah, if it was called Flood City or Hurricane Island, I don't think I'd want to buy a house there. But anyway, well, thank you guys. It's going to be a quick one tonight. We were out at the hockey game last night watching the Golden Knights get their ass handed to them by the Minnesota Wild. We are now tied 1-1. The Vegas Knights will be going to Minnesota for games 3 and 4. Hopefully we can at least pull one, if not both of those out. So whatever team you're rooting for, go team, go. Of course, right here we're Vegas Golden Knights. And of course, always Denver Broncos. That was the one thing about the Raiders moving here, and being a Broncos fan, I have to be inherit a Raider hater. But the good thing about it being here is I get to go watch a football game once a year, and I usually do that with my son. So not a bad thing to happen. So, well, that being said, love you guys. Glad you were able to join us. I know Mike had some new outro music. Let's see what he's got here. I don't know what he's got. I don't know. Mike is a techie guy. He's the one that does all this shit. I just sit there and I poke things and I hope it works. So anyway, love you guys. I'll see you next week. God bless.